Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm not going to take up a lot of time because I think we need to just get right to it here. I just want you to know that this is my first time moderating a conversation, so this should be rather interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when I'm moderating a conversation with someone who's actually a girlfriend of mine. We're going to try not to gossip too much. We won't talk about fashion a lot. We're going to talk about acting. We're going to answer your questions. I've known Marlee, let's see, I'm counting. Oh boy, a really long time. Since I was about 23 years old, I think was when we first met. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a while ago. We've worked together, we've spent time together, we've been pregnant at the same time. We have been tremendous admirers of one another's work. I am so honored that I had the opportunity to act with her, and I'm so honored that she is my friend, and I'm so honored and thrilled that she's here today because she's one of the more talented, tenacious, and incredible women in this industry. And what's really cool about Marlee is, yeah, she's hearing impaired, but it's not who she is. She's Marlee, and she's just fantastic. And with her also is a dear friend of mine and of hers, Jack Jason, who will be her interpreter. And without wasting too much more time, let me introduce to you my friend Marlee Matlin. I guess we should, G-rated, yes, poop. We should sort of go back to the beginning and talk about, you know, I think we need to focus on your career and how you got started and what inspired you to become an actor and where it all really began to start with.
I grew up in Chicago, and
that's right
on Chicago. And I had a lot of dreams as a young kid, as any child would. Despite the fact that I was deaf, nothing seemed to stop me from dreaming. And it just so happened that one day when I was 7 years old, I went to summer camp, and a camp counselor came up to me and asked me if I wanted to go on stage, and I said, "What's a stage?" And she said, "Well, you'll be standing on a platform in front of everybody, watching you do a song." And I thought, okay. So I stood up on this platform, and they asked me to sing a song called "John Brown's Body Lies a-Moldering in His Grave." Whatever that was, and I had a blast. I sang with all the hearing girls in Sign. I loved looking at everyone's faces, my family, my friends, my teachers, clapping, smiling. Every time, the more they smiled, the more I signed, the bigger I signed, and I turned into a ham. And that hasn't changed. So, the rest, I guess you could say, is history. After that point, I joined a local theater company, a children's theater company for the deaf. It was called the Center on Deafness, just a few miles from our home. And we did plays every year, and we toured various schools and clubs. We signed songs, we did skits, we did plays. We worked with hearing siblings of the deaf actors who acted as our voices, and I loved that. And I performed with the Center on Deafness until I was in high school, and that's when I wanted to play. So I stopped acting until I was 19 years old, and I was at community college studying criminology. I wanted to be a cop. And don't even start, Melissa. No. Don't even start.
I'll get there.
I'll get there. Melissa, listen.
One more minute.
One more minute. I'll be done in one more minute. And she always busts me. Anyway, so then there was an audition for Children of Lesser God, a stage production, and I resisted because I didn't want to compete. I wasn't one who was up for competition. I always wanted to win. I have to admit that. My ego is here on the line. But my brother convinced me to audition, and I ended up getting the secondary role of Lydia. And on the first night of the play, there was a casting director from Paramount, Gretchen Rennell. She came up to watch the production and asked us all to be videotaped. And I auditioned back and forth on the video. And then from that video, I got the film. And that's how I got here. And that's how I became a SAG member.
That's right, that's right. I actually have the date of your acceptance into SAG, October 9th, 1985.
No way.
Yes, way.
So then I'll make that an anniversary date every year and celebrate it.
There you go.
We'll have dinner together.
Okay, perfect.
On you.
That's okay. I have a SAG credit card.
Tax dinner.
Yes, I know. I can write her off. I actually, in some of the information I have here, you have said in the past that one of the things that really inspired you was that your parents raised you to be like every other child, not as a child with any kind of disability, certainly not as a deaf child. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I became deaf when I was 18 months old, and that, for my parents, was a life-changing experience. I have two older brothers. They had never even had any experience with deafness, obviously. They didn't know what or how to raise a deaf child, what school they would send me to, how to communicate with me, whether I should just sign, whether I should just speak, whether I should just do both. There was nothing in their experience that would help them understand what it would be like to raise a deaf child. So they just went around, learned as much as they could, and took in a variety of opinions from professionals, teachers, doctors, psychologists, and they learned the way of dealing with it. They put together, I mean, what they did is we got together, the parents, the family, and made plans for me. They said, we're going to keep Marlee at home. She's going to go to public schools in the neighborhood. These programs that these schools will be for deaf kids, and we're going to keep her at home. We're going to read books to her at night. We want her to be able to go out every day after school and play with the kids in the neighborhood. And they listened to me, they watched me, they listened to my dreams. They were there the whole time, every step of the way. If I had different things to explore, they made sure that I had that opportunity. I mean, the camp was a good example. They saw that I loved camp. They heard about the Center on Deafness. They decided to send me there. Nothing stopped them from helping me out, for lack of a better word. They gave me a taste of life, a taste of everything, whatever was out there and available to me. So I applaud their courage, their strength, for believing in me.
Yeah. Well, you also have the moxie that it takes to... Moxie. Moxie's a good word. I said moxie. I didn't say...
I signed something different. But see, like a little girl doesn't understand science. Anyway.
She may.
Yes.
We don't know. You don't know for sure. To follow through, to see that acting was an outlet for you and something that you wanted to do. You had the courage in you, and I think your parents instilled that in you to go out and do it. And you went out, you followed through with this dream, you did your first film, and you won an Oscar. I mean, there's not a lot of people that can say that. And
well,
the youngest...
You know, winning an Oscar wasn't on my parents' agenda, understand?
It was on mine, but that's a whole other conversation.
No, well, you don't need help, you're fine. Well, the important thing is, as parents, they saw my desire to do things that I loved. And they paid attention to those things, and they did something about it. They knew that it was acting, and they helped and encouraged me to stick with it. They never said no to me. With things, particularly with that. They just believed in me, and they were my fans. They were my fans. I asked them, do you want my autograph? When I was 7 years old, do you want my autograph? And they said, sure, Marlee. And I gave them my autograph. It may sound ridiculous, but I still have it. I think they probably still have it. But my parents were just that way. I don't know. I'm lucky that way. You know, it's one thing that was available. The things that are available for me is because of them.
All right, I'm going to start with the questions from the people in the room because that's really why you're here. You're here to have actually a conversation with the members of Screen Actors Guild, not yak with me. The first question comes from April. April says, give us a story about how you were able to turn someone else's no into a yes and how it changed your life. Who's April? Can you raise your hand?
Hi, April.
Hi, April. When I was 12, do you have 4 days? Anyway, when I was 12,
4 minutes. Stop this.
People tell me to always be brief, so I've got to. They feel free to tell me to stop if you need to. When I was 12, I was doing a skit at the Center on Deafness, a song, and Henry Winkler was our guest because he was in Chicago to promote his documentary. And we were having a benefit. We invited him, and he and his wife Stacy showed up.
You know Henry?
You know
yeah.
Henry. And I met him. Well, actually, I was waiting for my cue. I was waiting for my number. And someone tapped me on the shoulder, and it was Henry, and he signed, "I love you." And I instantly fell in love with him. I was 12 years old. And I kept in touch with him, I'll let you know, over the years. In any case, actually what happened is right after that performance, after the show, I was determined to meet him as I was with anyone growing up. I was very aggressive. I was very passionate. I wanted to meet as many different people as I could. So that night, I went up to Henry and said, "Henry, my name is Marlee Matlin, and I want to be a movie star just like you in Hollywood." And he said, "Well, Marlee." And just before he had a chance to speak, someone close to me, an adult, took him aside and said, "Just a second." Henry obliged. And you know, if you know Henry, he's one of the most polite people, extremely centered, listened. He doesn't even interrupt anyone who's speaking, as I do. And this person informed Henry that it might not be a good idea to encourage this little girl to become a movie star because that dream would be ridiculous because it would never come true, being that she's deaf, being that she's a young girl, and Hollywood. There would be no way. So Henry nodded, and the person said, "Fine." Henry turned around, knelt down, looked me straight in the eye and said, "Marlee, you could be whatever you want to be." And that always stuck with me. And that was when I was 12. And we wrote back and forth to each other. He became my mentor. When I was 21 and I won the Oscar, I had no idea what to do after that. I had an Oscar in my hand, so I flew to Los Angeles from New York, where I was living for 2 years. I knocked on his front door. He opened it. I said, "Here you go, Henry." Like this. "Now what?" And he said, "Come on in." And we talked about careers. His wife said, "Listen, Marlee, stay for the weekend," which turned out to be a week, which then turned out to be a month, which turned out to be a year, which ended up being 2 years. And he is one person that I call anytime. I call him up for just to talk, just to chat. And it's one thing that I really believe in is the importance of, it's something that comes from his heart, and he's a good friend, and Henry has helped me in those situations. He's not, he doesn't beat around the bush. If I ask him a question about anything, whether it's personal or business, he gets right to the point. But Henry Winkler has been my mentor and always will be.
He's a wonderful man. He's a wonderful guy. One of the things, actually, that I have to say that has amazed me about your career is that you've been able to do everything. You've been able to go from feature films, Oscar-winning roles, to incredible work in television, to drama, comedy, children's programming. Now you're writing. I guess I'd have to say that one of the things I admire most about you is that you're one of those people that once you set your mind to something, you do it. And I just, now that I have a public forum and I'm able to say it, I just, that inspires me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You inspired me when I was a kid and what you did when you're acting. What?
Okay.
What? No, I won't say anymore. Okay.
Okay, done.
Okay.
All right then.
I'm behaving.
I'm moving on to a question from Kim Eichelberger. Am I pronouncing that right? I am? Is that you, Kim? How did you overcome the idea that the roles you got were because you were well-known and deaf, rather than the truth that you have a huge amount of talent?
Well, thank you for that question. And thank you for the compliment as well. It's people out there, and there are not very many out there, that believe in me, that takes what I have to offer and be able to use it. People who understand that I just happen to be deaf. They're the ones who have to overcome something, not me. If they have something for me, then it works. I mean, what I'm saying is that it works both ways. I don't walk around every day thinking I'm a deaf person. I walk around every day knowing that I have a lot of things in my life going on. And, for example, I have a production company. And I don't sit and wait and see for a phone call, if there's going to be a phone call, or if there's going to be an offer, if there's going to be an idea. I have my producing partner, Jack, with me, who comes up with a variety of ideas, and we just go out there and throw them to whomever is interested in listening to them, writing them, making a movie, whatever it takes. It's hard because the majority of people out there are not as, I don't know if I can choose the right word, but not as open-minded to my, I don't want to say needs, but if they can see beyond the deafness and see what's there beyond the deafness, then it's great. There are some other individuals out there who are firm believers, somebody like Aaron Sorkin on The West Wing. He hired me because he believed that I could do the job. And I could deliver the character that he had in mind. So that's what it's all about.
What's really remarkable and what is inspirational, I was talking about this with the chair of the Performers with Disabilities Committee today, Robert David Hall, is that you've played roles that were not written for people who are deaf. Well, in the film
like
that we did.
The film we did together.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The movie we did together was not written for a person who was deaf, and anytime somebody can do something like that, it breaks down a barrier and gives people inspiration to think creatively and to cast creatively. At the same...
I still have to, though, every day. I still have to go out there to try to break down these barriers for people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
Who just don't get it.
I'll tell you, another conversation I had with another member too was that he went on an audition for a role that the character was blind, and all the actors in the audition were sighted, so they didn't even audition.
Well, look at Al Pacino in Scent of a
Well,
Woman.
yeah, and then there are those of us who've played people.
I'm going to get into one brief response because I work with Marlee as your partner. There was a role in a film where it was not for someone who was deaf. It was someone who couldn't speak. I won't name the film, but it was a very large film. And I happened to have to take that director home. And we were talking, and I said, makes sense. Marlee had just won the Oscar about 2 or 3 years before. It would be great for Marlee to play this role because it doesn't require her to speak. She has to act as if she can hear. That's what acting is about. And she said, well, I have a problem. Oop, I said she. They said, I have a problem because this person that Marlee will be playing has to be hearing, and everybody knows that Marlee is deaf. And no one will believe that she can hear and play that role. And I said, but then, do people actually believe that Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman was blind? Do people believe that Daniel Day-Lewis was disabled in My Left Foot? That's what acting is about.
I loved their work.
And I love their work.
Well, and
They did
I'm
a
not Helen
great
Keller,
job. But you had a career.
Yeah.
but I played her.
Yeah.
But this person had, that person had the barrier. And that's what the point is always about. And it's unfortunate, but that's what it is.
This is a great question. You're going to love this one. This is from Marcy Goldman. Please tell us about your children.
Okay. I have 3 children. Actually 4, a husband. Anyway, I have 3 children. I have 3 children, a 7-year-old girl, Sarah, a 2.5-year-old boy, Brandon, and a 9-month-old Tyler, boy. And they are my gems. That's all I can say. Simple as that. They are my gems. The other day, my daughter had a day at school where they had to dress in a particular profession. They had to pretend they were some profession. It didn't matter. They just had to choose something. And my husband happens to be a cop, okay? Happens to be a cop. We had a costume for kids. It was a police officer's costume. I mean, I thought that was perfect. Why not? And she said, no way. And I said, okay, fine. She said, no way. She's very adamant about certain things. Mother, daughter, you know,
Yeah,
that kind
I was
of
going to
thing.
say, where does she get
Same
that?
thing, yeah. Anyway, so I said, so okay, fine. What do you want to be? An actress. And I said, no way. She said, well, why not? And I said, no. Pick something else. She went as Sarah.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I
no,
just,
no.
No, what? No child
I don't want
actors?
to be an actress.
Ever?
Today.
Today. Yeah, I understand. Okay, I have a question from Matlin St. Clair. Is that right? Hey. Regarding West Wing, who is your interpreter? An actor or someone you work with personally?
There's an interpreter. The interpreter on the show is Bill O'Brien. He's not an interpreter in real life. He's an actor. And he works very closely with Deaf West Theater in the Valley. And he's an actor playing an interpreter. But I have an interpreter on the set who works with me to interpret for everything that goes on the set. Anything that happens off camera, on camera, whatever that is. A lovely man, Bill O'Brien. He's great. But he's not, actor.
The actor.
He's an actor, yeah. Great actor.
And we have a lot of
And a producer. He's producing, and a musician. He's producing Big River that was just put on in the Mark Taper Forum that's moving to Broadway. Have you guys seen that production, by the way? It was a signed and spoken musical, Big River, that was, it was a regular musical that they turned into a signed musical that brought the play to an entirely different level, and now it's going to Broadway, and it'll be opening in the fall.
Well, I find also that there's just such a beauty and emotion to sign language. It's so moving to see and to hear with your heart. I've always been fascinated.
Show them the 130 sign you know.
I don't think so.
No.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm not behaving.
Looking
I'm
at
not
the little
behaving.
girl.
Okay.
I'm behaving. I'm sorry.
That's one of the benefits of working with Marlee. I got to learn all the dirty signs like right away. Tara Platt. Hi. Tara's question is, do you find that producing your own work empowers you as an actor?
Producing my own work? Mm-hmm. We just finished producing a film for the Disney Channel. A children's movie that will be coming out in July, actually July the 18th, on my son's birthday. Great. And this is our second film that we've produced, the completed film. And it really, well, people do react when I go up to them and I say, do you want to produce something together? They respond very positively about that. The first one was for Lifetime. We produced a film together and the experience was great. And now I said the Disney Channel. And so I look forward to producing more things with Jack. I don't know if it necessarily gives me clout as an actor to get more work as an actor, but some people do make that jump, and they said, let's produce together. They understand that I'm interested in making that jump. It's a new thing for me, too. It's new, and there's a lot to learn. Jack was in New Zealand for 2 months and I didn't get to go because I had a personal emergency related to my mother. And he said he never anticipated what happens on a set at that level and what happens behind the scenes of filmmaking as much as it does when you're a producer.
There's a second part to this question, and you sort of touched on this, so I don't know if you necessarily need to, but why did you start producing?
I started producing because I don't want to sit and wait and look for work that has to do with acting. I want to produce. I want to be able to use my creativity and not necessarily with acting. Making movies is fun. Going beyond just developing a character and doing something more. Why not?
This is an interesting question from Don Grabowski. I think we had one from Don, I'm not really sure before. Before Children of a Lesser God, did you have representatives that sent you out for, I'm going to modify this. She says able-bodied, more mainstream roles. I want to say roles, period. How were you able to get seen before your big break? Were you able to get an agent first? How did that process happen?
Well, as I said, I was doing the play on the stage. It was a small little role. The casting director saw me. And I did the movie. Well, I had an agent in Chicago, Harisse Davidson, a great woman. Was that before the play?
I didn't have, no, I didn't have anybody during the play.
I didn't have anyone during the play. But then, naturally, when people heard that I didn't have an agent, they jumped right on the bandwagon. And Harisse was the first one, so I grabbed her. And during the movie, I had her. And then when I moved to New York, and I didn't use really anyone, because I was kind of lost at that period in my life for that 2 years, right after the movie, but before it came out. I did another film just after the Oscars, a movie called Walker with Ed Harris. But I really didn't do much, and I decided that life needed to change, and I got a new boyfriend, I did a makeover, I did everything different, and that's when I decided to move to Los Angeles. And I went with an agency, and then I moved to another agency after that, and there you go, that's my career.
I personally really like this question, and you better be careful how you answer this one. It's from Elizabeth Carcel. In film and TV, what are common mistakes that hearing people, writers, actors, etc., make in the portrayal of deaf people? Did I make any?
Plenty.
Okay, oh good. It's interesting.
I'm more a student of film because they always make it sound as if deaf people can't speak. They're surprised when they meet me and they hear that I can speak, and they sort of jump back and they say, well, what's wrong? I mean, I can speak. They don't know I can speak. There's a lot of misconceptions about deaf people. Here's a good example. Not necessarily television. Once we were on a plane, and Jack and I were on the plane one day and sitting down, and I was reading my magazines, and the plane was yet to take off, and the flight attendant came over handing out the menus, and I just looked at the menu, and then she spoke to me, and I said, I'm sorry, and she looked at me, she goes, oh. She grabbed the menu from me, and I was like, okay, whatever, and she left. And I said, Jack, what's going on? And he said, I don't know. Then she came back, and she goes, here. And I took the menu, and I said, Jack, what is this? And he said, it's Braille. Braille. It was Braille. She had a good intention, but she did, but just a little misplaced, that's all. A little misplaced. And one time, and here's a good example in the business, I was doing an interview live on CNN, ready to sit down. We were, making a little small talk, 3 seconds left. I got my makeup, I got my hair. And just before the light came on, the woman leaned over and said, Marlee, my dog is deaf. And suddenly the light comes on. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we have something in common. I mean, she meant well. She meant well. People do mean well, but they just, you know.
Well, sometimes we can be completely disarmed. Like talking to you on the telephone. At first, for me, the first time I talked to you on the phone was a little weird. I didn't quite know how to.
Melissa, talk to me. I have somebody helping me.
It was
That was speakerphone support.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know what else I noticed also that I thought was really, really interesting that had never occurred to me before when we were working together, when we were doing the film together. One of the things that I'm very sensitive to sound, and most actors, we get distracted if there's talking off camera or something. But with Marlee, it's sight. If someone's moving in her eye line, she's completely distracted by it. And that really, you know, it seems so logical, and it hadn't occurred to me. And that first day, we all learned very quickly that nobody's to move, and just let's all focus here.
Here's a good example of something, of working as Marlee's producing partner. We had dailies sent to Marlee when I was in New Zealand. And I would get notes from Marlee saying, this actor and this actor does this and this actor does this, and they're missing this and they're missing this. And I'm thinking, well, that makes sense because Marlee is basing it on what she sees. And I think the biggest mistake, and I'm not casting aspersions out there, but from working with Marlee for nearly 17 years, is that acting is the entire instrument. And so many actors talk, but Marlee, knowing what the instrument is about, picks it up just from what she sees. And she can hear some, but just from what she sees, and can give the same feedback that any actor who just uses their ears. And I think that's a common misconception. I've seen Marlee playing a role where she's supposed to hear, not necessarily speak. And she reacts as if she can, completely like you or I. And it has to do with the cues one gets from body.
Well, I also...
Because the movie that we did together...
I wasn't deaf.
I wasn't deaf.
No, I know. I know, I remember. That also, though, to me, is another thing that comes from sign language, is that for actors like Marlee, who communicate that way, and for people who do, their entire body is involved in it. And it's palpable, and it's very emotional.
Imagine if the situation were reversed and now this was the silent era, who would probably be right at the top of the box office.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
It's a good thing.
Peggy Sue. Peggy Sue's question is, are you planning to do theater in the near future at Deaf West or Standard Theater? Or anywhere, I would imagine.
Are there any good parts?
Let's produce a play.
I am terrified of the stage. Only because I'm a perfectionist. And that's my problem. And if I forgot a word, my life would be over.
That's how dramatic
That's how dramatic I can
Is that
be.
pathetic?
Is that pathetic? Actually, if there was a great role, I would do it. I would do it. Yeah.
This kind of goes to that as well while we're talking about nerves and anxiety. Lisa Clifton? Lisa, your film debut was such a huge role in a big film. Were you overwhelmed at all with nerves? And if so, how did you overcome the anxious feelings?
Well, let me tell you the truth. Children Lesser God, I walked onto that set the first day not knowing one single thing that was happening. I didn't understand what a director's role was. I didn't understand who grips were. I didn't understand what a stand-in was. I didn't understand that there was, a time where you had to pay attention. I didn't understand a single thing. I didn't even know that there were trailers for actors. I didn't know anything. That was all so exciting and new for me that I didn't even have the time to be nervous. That's what was so great about that experience. But then, after Children Lesser God, forget it.
Well, then the pressure was on, too, to see if you could continue to deliver. Robert Hodge.
Robert, I'm sorry?
Robert Hodge.
He left to do that.
He left, so I shouldn't ask the question. It's a good question. What acting instructors or teachers did you benefit from the most?
I did not go to acting school. I observed a few classes, but I wasn't a student. I observed by watching other actors. That's how I learned. All actors on television, all actors, everyone, television, on film, on the screen, on stage, whatever it is, I watch every one of you. That's how I do it. I don't know.
Angela McEwen asks, Angela? Hi. This is about writing. Was there a particular person who inspired you to write? And second half of the question is, what books did you like as a child?
First of all, I loved reading Judy Blume books as a child. I loved her. I read all her books. I have a great interpreter. He told me what happened. Someone's phone. And anyway, I was 11. Well, in front of our house in Chicago, we had a sign that said, "Caution, deaf child crossing," to tell people to slow down when they drove by our house, because there were a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and me being one, I needed to watch, and so people needed to slow down because I couldn't hear them. And I always loved that sign because it was my sign. It was about me.
It was.
It was. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to write a book someday about that sign and the neighborhood. I was 11. And it took a long time to get there, but here it is. And it's one that I'm extremely proud of because it's basically loosely based on my life as a child. About two girls, one who's deaf and one who's hearing, about 10 years old, and their friendship over the course of the summer and the conflicts that they go through over the course of a summer. And a lot of it's true, a lot of it's fiction. And I've just been asked to write 3 more books.
Wow. Oh, great.
I would love to do a film version of this book. And I've not stopped thinking about it, so I'm going to pursue it.
Oh, the second half of that question was, what books did you love as a child?
What was it? Judy Blume.
Judy Blume. Oh,
Okay.
right, you did answer that. Hello. I'm focused. Okay. Well, the next question is from Danielle. Did we lose a light? Oh. Danielle Panabaker. Danielle's question is, who is your favorite person to work with and why?
Melissa Gilbert. You were a lot of fun.
You were a lot of fun.
It was a fun film.
I'm not kissing up.
I'm not kissing up, really.
You were
But you were great.
great.
You're great.
Great
Great to work with.
Great.
Great.
Very professional.
Very
I learned a lot
professional,
of
and I
tips
learned a
from
lot
you.
of tips from you.
Oh, good.
I'll tell you later.
I'll tell you later.
I was single then, wasn't I? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I just had gotten it. No, I just got married at the time.
just got married.
I just got married, right? Anyway, too bad if we were both single women on the problem. But anyway,
Cool.
who was my favorite actor? I loved working with Ed Harris. Extremely intense, and he knows his craft. I loved working with Piper Laurie. I loved working with, what have I done? Everybody on the West Wing. Everybody in the West Wing. They are the hardest working group of actors that I know. When I go to work and I see what they do every day on that set, it's phenomenal. The time that they spend, the lines they have to memorize, the hours 15 to 18 hours a day on that set, sometimes on Saturdays. I'm lucky enough not to have been a regular on that show to have to work on Saturdays. They are incredible.
Yuri Lowenthal. Yuri's question is, do you find that people treat you very differently when you're working? And if so, what do you do to put them at ease?
A lot of times when I go onto the set and people have never met me, they get nervous. I see, they do. But I get nervous too. But I put them at ease in a second by teaching them signs, dirty signs.
Yeah. It perks the
It's
ice.
true, it really does break the ice. It really does. But actually,
And I was her friend first, and it put me at ease.
I don't need anyone to hold my hand. I'm a big girl. I've been in this business for a while now. Not as long as Melissa, but
So nobody.
Okay.
I can acknowledge that because you've been around.
This is 345 years, I think, now.
Good.
You look good.
Thank you.
345 years.
I'll give you the doctor's name later.
Okay. Oh, anyway, so to move on.
Sorry, we were gossiping. See, it happens.
No, you know, I like to work with good people, and if they're good people and I'm good to them, we're all comfortable and we all get along. That's basically what it is.
Well, here's an interesting kind of question from Trish. Who's Trish? Trish, I heard you were going to do a new version of Cyrano. Did I miss it? This is...
Which one was it?
The film you do with Cameron.
No.
You didn't miss it. I mean, it was, the title was called, no, that's not the film. It's the film with Cameron that was Cyrano. Remember that story? Sorry. So many.
Kids.
There was a movie that Marlee did with Cameron Manheim called,
Oh, in Toronto.
yes. What was the name of that
Okay.
film?
What was the name of the film, Mark?
Kiss My Act.
Thank
you. Where Cameron played a woman who was a comedian, a stand-up.
Another time.
You never ended up seeing the film? Where she played, where she was helping a beautiful woman get to a guy, and Cameron was her Cyrano, and Marlee played her best friend.
I was pregnant.
And I was pregnant at the time. Yeah, that's why I forgot. 3 times is too many. But yeah, and it's been out. It's been out. So.
Yuri Lowenthal has another question. Do you have any particularly funny or memorable stories about any of the films you've worked on?
Every film is so different. The vibes, the people, the energy is so different in each time when you do a movie. You mean you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just the different group of people that you work with, the actors, directors. Let me see. First of all, I can tell you I'm not shy. So usually in every film, I always we try to have some sort of fun on the set with the crew. I tell stories. When I was single, I would do things only single people could do.
Well said in front of the children.
There you go. I am a good parent.
Yes.
So many things. A lot of times, it's been terrible, and I go back to the hotel and I cry. But I deal with it.
One way or the other.
One way or the other.
Oh boy, please forgive me if I mispronounce this name. Tajma An-Noor? I said it correctly? Oh, thank goodness. Your husband is not in the business. How is it for him being married to an actress?
The one thing I love about Kevin is that as much as he is a major movie goer, he loves movies, he has no interest in following me along to the set, or, I mean, he'll go if I ask him, you know, but it's almost like twisting his arm. I mean, I understand his point of view. I mean, it's boring on a set if you're just a visitor. It's boring. There's nothing to do. It's just trying to be quiet or trying to be cool, you know. I know her, like that. So I love being married to him because he's a great guy, and as you know, as a police officer, he doesn't come, I mean, for me, I'm lucky because he doesn't come home with this police mentality. How's your day? How's your day? Fine, fine. And that's all, it's, you know, and we focus on the kids or us, and that's what it's all about. You know, I mean, movies aren't a priority for him. I mean, a lot of times, I don't even think he's seen me work. I mean, just at the beginning, and that's about it. And that's fine. I mean, I can't entertain him on the set because I'm working.
Maybe
so
during lunch break.
maybe during lunch break, you know. But
I totally understand. I can't drag my husband down to well, he has his own sets to go to, but whenever
look,
my husband has his work, I have my work.
He knows where I am.
He knows where I am.
He knows what I'm doing.
And it is boring, you're right. If you're not involved, it is
Boring for
so
him.
boring.
It's boring for him.
I always tell Bruce when he invites me to come visit him on the set, I always say, why? So I can hold your coffee? What? Yes, honey, please come hold my coffee. He actually enjoys that very much since I got elected, because then he says, look, the president of SAG holds my coffee. April. April's question.
Name it, the first one.
The first one, yeah.
Yes.
First question.
April says.
I know her.
Yes, well, she's back, and she says something very nice. She says, you're an inspiration to me. What kept you going through the tough times, and what advice do you have for struggling actresses?
Today, I'm a struggling actor. I can tell you that. Today, I'm a struggling actor because I'm not working. I'm dry at the moment, which means I'm not shooting anything. That's what I mean by that. The book is great, and the other stuff is great, but I'm not shooting, I'm not working, and I'm a struggling actor today. But I'm so grateful that I do have a job that I will eventually get. I have great people who work with me. Just knock on wood. It's just, you just have to have patience, but you need to have, there's something about you that has to be aggressive to just want to go out there and make yourself known one way or the other. I do struggle thinking, what am I doing wrong? Or am I doing this right? Let me talk to, I talk to people that I know, that I trust. As I said, Henry Winkler. So, you know, it's, you know, like, you can imagine it. There's a wall. And you know your strengths. And you know that somehow you can get to this wall if you just find a weak spot in this wall. And you go right there, and you try to use that spot and work it and go right through it. And on that other side of the wall is work. That's how I do it. That's what works for me.
Patty Duke once told me that it takes the courage of a thief. Yeah.
I agree.
Hang on. Oh, April, she's so prolific. She has another question. How are you able to fit in having a family with your career? And do you have any advice on how to stay balanced, keep your life balanced?
I have a great husband.
Yeah.
He is the best father that I know of for me. God bless him. He loves being a dad. And before we got married, we had this agreement, that if we have kids and if there's a job out there for me to go away to, he said, go, do it, go for it. Because he knows that it's not a job that takes me 365 days a year to complete. He knows that I love to work. He knew that I loved my craft. And why should I let a family stop me from doing that? I do have his help. I do have someone to watch the kids during the day from 9 to 6. And bless her. But we don't have nannies on the weekend. We don't have nannies who spend the night. We don't need them because we feel this is what we should be doing. This is what we want. And that's as simple as that.
It's not easy, but it's quick though.
It's doable. It's a constant struggle. I do the same thing, and I don't have a live-in nanny, and I don't have help on the weekends either. And it's just a matter of figuring out what that balance is. And it's sort of, I found, a no-win situation for me. There's a part of me that always feels bad when I'm not with my kids, that I'm not with them. And then there's a part of me when I'm home sometimes relaxing and I'm with my kids going, oh, I gotta go out and earn money. Ugh. So it's just a struggle, but it's worth it, I think.
My second son hates the computer. He hates when I get on the computer because email is my life. I mean, I don't use the phone. And he knows when he sees mommy on the computer, he wants me to get off. And I said, Brandon, I have to work for 5 minutes. I spend a lot of time with them. I do. Every morning, I drive my daughter and my son to school, and I make their lunches. I don't have to tell you to prove that I'm a good parent. But this is what I do as a parent. I mean, this is the question. This is related to what you asked. So anyway, I'm becoming a co-leader now for the Brownie troupe that my daughter is in. And I'm a room parent for the 2nd grade class this coming September.
What if I got into?
What have I got myself into here?
You have no idea.
But that makes me happy.
But that makes me happy, you see? It makes me happy.
Lisa Clifton. Do you ever have moments when you're shooting a big scene, or any scene I would imagine, but you don't feel quite connected? If so, how do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, I never allow anyone, not even the director, to tell me that it's fine, move on. I say, you are not doing the character. I'm doing the character. I want to do it again. And they say, look, Marlee, it was fine, you were great. And I say, no, I want to feel good about what I just did. And if worse comes to worse, I just walk away, give me 5 minutes. If I don't feel, I walk away. And I have had many struggles. I mean, I'm my own worst critic, okay? That's what it comes down to. And I have to overcome that, but I never will. I never will. Are you that way too?
I'm pretty bad. I've seen you in action though. I've seen her throw up her hands and go, nope, 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 nope. That just was poop. There's children here. I'm like, forget it. I gotta do this again. And the great thing is you're not afraid to speak it, to say it, to do it again. There are a lot of actors who let it go though. That are afraid to say something.
A good example is when Marlee did the practice in that scene in the courtroom. You did it in 2 takes, 1 take. And you explain that one because that was a good example of how you, when there's a big scene coming up that I know there's a great deal of emotional issues, for example, like I have to cry, I try not to plan what I'm going to do. You can't. And there was a scene in the practice that I did 2 years ago. I was 7 months pregnant at the time. The character was a mother who shoots the person who molested and killed her child. So, there was a scene, David Kelly always, I mean, I did picket fences with him for 2 years. He always manages to find and write 4 pages of things, or, gives me the biggest things that really terrify me to do. So in this one scene, I had to sit in the courtroom, and I had to imagine and explain my feelings, why I did what I did, because I was on trial. And it was about 3 pages of dialogue, my own dialogue that I had to do. And I was so petrified for a week. I wasn't myself. I was in a bad mood. And I struggled a great deal. But at the same time, I knew that somewhere inside me, I was just preparing. It was sort of in my subconscious somewhere. I was just preparing for this, strangely. And then when I got into that, well, the night before, the director said, do you want to go first? And I said, yes. So I slept great the night before. Don't know why. Got to the set at 7, shot at 8:30. They said, are you ready? And I said, yeah, I can't do it. And everybody said, what? And I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I was talking out loud, really. And I was flipping out for about 45 seconds. And the director came up to me, and I thought, okay, no, this isn't necessary, just go away, go away. So I just sat down, and I did it for 1 take. I did it in 1 take, and after that, I was out of control after that in terms of my emotions. But I thought, you know what? I did okay. And they asked me if I wanted another take, and I said, are you crazy? And move on. And what happened with that role?
I didn't win the Emmy.
I didn't win the Emmy, but you got nominated.
I got nominated. But, yeah.
It was one thing I've been very, very proud of. That work on the practice, I'm very, very proud of that. What? Interpreter what? Okay.
You know that I just realized we've worked together twice. I'm such a bonehead. Sweet Justice. You were a psychic.
That's right.
And I had to, we were in a courtroom, and I was the lawyer, and I had you on the stand. This is from Hale? Hallie? Hale? Hale. Are you from Morton Grove, Illinois? That's the question.
Am I supposed to know you? Okay.
Oh, good.
Morton Grove, yeah.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
from Morton.
My hometown.
Yeah, my hometown.
I'm not going to ask the second half of the question, which is, what was your street address? You don't have to answer that. Unless you want to.
9505 Ozanam Avenue.
See you there.
See you there.
Because I won't be there.
Because I won't be there.
This is the question that I showed you in the back. Marlena, D, is it D? Do you think that the voice of women regarding intimacy or sexuality is being presented from the women's point of view?
I can't hear.
No. Say that again. Ask the question again.
Do you think that the voice of women regarding intimacy or sexuality is being presented from the women's point of view?
I think so. Do you?
Oh, God. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, because when you have a male writer and a male producer who's writing a role for a woman, I don't know how in touch they are with what the woman's point of view
Sex in the
is.
City?
Who writes Sex in the City?
Guys.
No, Judy Toll wrote Sex in the City.
Some women, but a lot of men. Darren Star is a man.
I think we need more women to work in this business, period. That's all there is.
Remember how many women worked on the film that we did together?
Say that again?
There were how many women that worked on the film?
Well, Janet Faust was the producer.
Right, there was us. There were women everywhere.
What was
his name,
the director?
John's,
John.
The worst BO in the whole world.
The worst BO in the whole world. Okay.
Well, we won't say his name now then, which I can't remember anyway because I have no brain left. All right. Well, we have 55 minutes. I've run out of questions. And
Do you have any more? Are there any questions you'd like to ask?
We don't generally do this, but can
Yes.
you give us your, because it's hard for us to whip the camera around. I will repeat your question, just so we have it on camera.
I wanted to say thank you to Marlee for writing this wonderful article. It made me cry, it made me laugh. And what is the name of her production company? And the same Jack that is here, is that her partner? Thanks.
Yes, this is Jack.
This is Jack.
It's
Solo One Productions. Solo One Productions. We've had it for the production company since like 1990. And I'm very grateful that we have a production company because we're in control, we're in charge, and don't come to us because we don't have money yet, but.
Yeah, someone did ask where they could send their headshots, but you're not ready for that yet. That was one of the questions that I sort of skimmed over. Yes?
Why don't you want your kids to be in business?
Why don't you want your kids
Are
to be
you
in
an
business?
actress?
Are you an actress?
Yes, that's why you're here, yes.
That's why you're here, obviously, yes.
That's great.
That's great. I admire child actors a great deal, and I've worked with child actors. And Melissa is one who was a child actor. My daughter, I mean, there's so much out there for kids. I mean, she has a great personality. She's very funny. She's not shy. She's beautiful. She's talented in other ways, for example, she's 7. And I want her to be able to do things that I did growing up, like going to school every day and being able to go, take a PE class or join a softball league or swim, she's an awesome swimmer. She's an awesome swimmer. And I want her to play for now. And I want her to explore her desires to do whatever it is she wants to do. And if she becomes an actor, I'll make sure she has her membership in SAG first. But it's hard for me to be, I'm a mother, remember, I'm a mother. That's a different perspective. So that's why I feel this way. Do you want your child to be an actor?
I actually, I have 4 kids, and I have, my oldest stepson is grown. He's 22, he's a musician. My 17-year-old stepson is a filmmaker to be. And then my guys are 14 and 7, and they're incredibly talented, and they're really, really creative. But I look at them, and I can't imagine them being able to do that, to do what I did, and to do what you do when you have a job to maintain schoolwork. I can't get them to pick their clothes up off the floor. How they're going to be able to learn dialogue, keep up with their schoolwork, and have a social life, I can't see it happening for them. They haven't asked to do it. School plays they're doing. Now that's one thing I've encouraged.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in fact, tomorrow I'm going to a performance of Peter Rabbit. My son Michael is playing a mouse. And he's quite thrilled about it, and I will be weeping in the front row, and I'm very proud of him. Until my kids, if they really want to do it, are able to do it on their own, until they're able to find a way to maintain their lives and to have the balance that they need, then I'm just not going to do it. I just don't see it for them. I really don't.
Well, because I remember my childhood vividly. I remember going on the school bus every day. I remember doing all these other things, these subjects at school, meeting with friends, planning after school activities, what we were going to do on the weekend, go roller skating. And it was as normal could be. And I want to see them graduate from high school. And if they want, hopefully go to college. And I'm not going to say I'm holding them back. My daughter has, in 3rd grade, it's mandatory to take a drama class. And I'm okay with that. And yesterday, I taught a drama workshop. And the kids had a great time. And next week they're doing a talent show. And that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, it's great. Now, I'll tell you, I look back on my childhood, and I see all the things I didn't get to do. I didn't get to have play dates. I didn't get to do after-school activities. I didn't get to try out for the cheerleading squad, even though I probably wouldn't have made it. I didn't get to do school plays. I did get to do a lot of wonderful things, but there were aspects of my life that I did miss, that my children have. And I'm actually really enjoying living through that with them. I have more questions, thank goodness. And I also have a request. We will stop at 8:30 so you can sign your book.
Okay.
Is that good?
Good.
Good. Listen, I don't know who asked this question, but what is it like winning an Academy Award? And were you surprised?
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, Sissy Spacek, Kathleen Turner, Sigourney Weaver, and Jane Fonda. Come on. These are the people I was in the same category with. Great actors. A long time in the business. Very well known. And they wore real diamonds.
They didn't own it.
They didn't own them necessarily.
Maybe
they
Jane
did. Maybe Jane did.
Was she married to Ted then?
No, she wasn't married to Ted at the time.
No, she wasn't.
she
So
wasn't.
did he own it?
No, she didn't own them. Okay, so
No, we love Jane.
we love Jane. So like I said before, Children Lesser God, when I was in the set, I had absolutely no idea what was really happening except that I was there working. I didn't know about what people's roles were. I didn't remember watching the Academy Awards before I did that film. I'm sure I must have, but I was more interested in Miss America or Miss USA as a kid than I was the Academy Awards. I loved watching those kind of things. But the Academy Awards, I thought, you know, I'm whatever. But the person that I went with made me very nervous because he was telling me what a big deal it was and told me what to wear, told me what to do, told me what not to do, which made me nervous. And I went there and sat down and listened, and I was in awe, of course, because all the stars that were there, and thinking, what am I doing here? And William Hurt stood up there because he had won the Oscar the previous year for Kiss of the Spider-Woman, was up there. And I can tell you that we were dating at the time. And that's the only thing I'll say. And he said my name in sign, like this, Marlee. And I'm thinking, well, is he telling me because we're going out, or is that really what happened? I won? And he's like, come on. And I thought, oh God. And it was all a whirl. And I didn't have a speech prepared, and I forgot to thank Jack. I don't think his father has spoke to me for 3 years after that. It was a blur. Paul Newman wasn't there, and I was disappointed because I wanted to be there with somebody. And I remember thinking that. And my whole family came backstage when I was getting my picture taken. I'm thinking, how did you get here? It was like, Mom, I'm here getting my picture taken. It was a great experience. It was a great day. I won the Golden Globe just before that as well. And it was bizarre. It was just bizarre. I can give you a perspective of being with Marlee because I have a little bit more clarity because I wasn't the one who won. And I remember the first thing that Marlee did when there's that experience, you get your Oscar and then they whisk you off stage to get your picture taken. And you walk down this really long hallway. And I remember Marlee turning to me and she started to laugh. And I started to laugh and she goes, I'm from Morton Grove. I won an Oscar. And we were laughing. And then we walk up and there's this room and you could feel the heat from this room and you think, is it because the heat is on? And it's because all these pictures are being taken. And Marlee stood there and she was actually tearing because the lights were flashing so much. It's an experience if you've never had one of being, and people started to shout her name. She would stand in one place and they go, Marlee, Marlee, Miss Matlin, Miss Matlin. And at the Golden Globes, the time before, they learned, because Whoopi Goldberg at one point, because Whoopi gave Marlee the Golden Globe, said, when they were saying, Marlee, Marlee, and Whoopi said, she's deaf. Because they hadn't figured it out yet. So then they started to get smart because then Marlee would look because they'd start to go like this. And so Marlee instinctively would turn to look and they were just going like this. And they click, and they click. And they still do that. They'll just go like this, and you know, they're not saying anything. And I remember just watching, and suddenly her whole family came up to be with her, and it was. But she managed to get my family to go as well. So Marlee asked for 11 tickets for the Oscars. You can't even get one extra one now. But this was 1987.
But there were nosebleeders.
There were nosebleed seats. It was the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion up there.
But anyway,
they were all there, you know. And I remember one publicist said, "What is this? Mom and Pa Kettle go to the Oscars?" But we didn't know any better. Marlee did. We were like, fine.
Oh, better schmetter. If I'd take my entire family, I'd take all of you if I was nominated. I'd take everybody I know.
We always annoy people who are planning events or movies because Marlee's always saying, "Can I bring friends? Can I bring people?" Because it's more fun when you have people to go with.
SAG Awards.
The SAG Awards is a lot of fun, by the way. I've just got to tell you.
It's a lot of fun because it's just us.
It's just us. It's just the actors.
There's no publicist zone. There's no managers zone.
Well, they're in the nosebleed seats.
You know, it's not like
us.
It's not like when you go to the Oscars or the Golden Globes and the front 3 rows are full of producers and publicists and whatever. It's just you.
It's fun.
SAG, you looked great.
Thank you very much.
You looked great.
Thank you very much.
Were the diamonds real? Yeah, because.
Were the diamonds real?
The diamonds? Yes.
Okay,
they weren't huge either. I got a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting comments on the dress after that too. Would you like to direct?
No, thank you.
Why not?
Because I don't know how.
Yes, you do. You don't know that you know how.
I have a vision.
You could direct a play first.
I tell her every day she could direct.
Can't babysit everybody.
You don't do that. That's the producer's job. That's the producer's job.
That's the SAG
Who's a director here? Who's a director here?
Do I have to babysit? No?
No.
No, you know what you have to do? Here's what you have to do that I found out when I was directing. You have to be, you have to solve problems before they happen. It's not babysitting. It's what you do as a mother every day. It's not about babysitting. It's about seeing the problems coming and solving them before they actually happen. And working with actors and having the conversation about creating a character with them. The character that they're going to portray. It's really fun. Great. Yeah, see?
But I don't want to tell them what to do.
You can tell them what to do.
Okay.
Sure.
As if she doesn't tell people what to do.
Because she's so not opinionated and she's such a shrinking violet now. Who would you like to work with that you haven't worked with?
I would love to work with Jenna Rollins. I would love to work with Patty Duke.
Lucky.
You're lucky.
3 times.
I'd love to work with... There's a lot of actors out there I'd love to work with.
I'd love to work.
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 Work. Work is good. Work is your friend. Oh, this is an interesting question. You know, we get asked when did you have the most fun? What was the fun? Tell us a funny story. Tell us, you know, about something really special or that was really great about being on the set. And it's really hard to remember something. But this you can remember. What was your worst experience on a shoot?
Well, unfortunately, this one, what's that?
This never goes away.
This never goes away. This memory never goes away. One of the worst, well, there are some bits of work that I've done that I had the worst hours, that I had the worst, I mean, some of the worst people on the set that didn't know what they were doing. Maybe they thought I didn't know what I was doing, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm trying to be careful because it's not fair for the other people that I'm talking about them to tell you, because when I'm asked this kind of question, I don't lie. So out of respect for the other individuals that I had experienced working with, or that I had something happen on the set, I'm afraid I can't say it. Because all I could say that there are experiences that made me cry, that didn't make me feel good. And that weren't things that I deserved at all. Well, one person perhaps said to me, asked me, what makes you think you deserved this Oscar? Because there were other people working in this business for a long time, and you did it with one film. So what makes you think you deserved it? And I mean, that's one of the worst things that ever happened to me in this business. Or a fight in front of 100 people that you might have on a set, and that happened, and it shouldn't have happened. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I think another thing that's professionally probably not a pleasant memory is to read after Marlee wins an Oscar and someone says, she won out of pity.
Yeah.
Or she'll never work again. And you know, she has an Oscar and flowers and everybody, you know, and it's a very well-known magazine. She'll never work again because she's deaf. These are people who aren't deaf, who have no association with deaf people or understanding. And then the next thing I know, the next year when I went back to the Oscars to give the Oscar for Best Actor, it was Michael Douglas that year, and I spoke and decided to speak and not sign because I wanted people to know that I do speak. It just happens to be something I do, and I worked actually to make it even better with a speech therapist, a great lady. And I worked hard. I mean, I really worked hard on all the possible permutations and names, even before the nominations came out. When the nominations came out, then I even worked on those even harder. Marcello Mastroianni, and you know.
That was good.
Yeah. You know, and I said the names, and the one thing I forgot to do, I did forget, was to sign. To sign. I forgot because I was so focused on making sure that the names were pronounced correctly. I mean, I'm talking about billions of eyes watching me here. So, and I must have done something right because the right person came up to pick up the Oscar, so there. And a few days later, I got dragged through the mud because some members of the deaf community, this was now the reverse, some members of the deaf community yelled at me because I thought I was trying to tell people out there that people should think that deaf people should speak and not sign, particularly children, and that I was offensive at the Oscars. So, you know, we always, I mean, any actor, I mean, we always get flack for whatever we may do. We can't please everybody all the time. And if you're fans of ours, great, thank you very much. I thank you for liking me. And if you're not, look elsewhere. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
Trying being president of Screen Actors Guild sometime.
No, thank you.
Talk about loving and hating a person. Woohoo!
Poetry.
Wow, wow. Especially the last few months. It's been really hot around here.
We'll talk.
We'll talk.
Yes, we will. For some reason, people expect me to be the one to control what everybody says publicly too now. That's the latest thing. Yeah, I know. Dear President Gilbert, shut your members up. They shouldn't be speaking about the war. Okay, I'll call Susan Sarandon right now.
I have her cell phone.
I have her cell phone number if you need it.
I did too.
No, just joking.
All right, I'm going to do one last question, and then we're going to let you sign your book for people and let you get home to your kids, and I'm going to go home to my kids, who need to get together and play. Actually, well, we'll talk about that later. What was the hardest role for you to prepare for, and why?
Actually, truthfully, any role that I do is hard. Any role I consider difficult because it's a whole new energy. It's about playing a whole new person, a whole new role. You don't know what's going to come out. I don't know what's going to come out of me. You create this personality and everything about this person. It's intimidating to play a role where, you know, there's a great deal of emotions. I mean, but that's the kind of stuff I like to do. I always have done. I don't know why. It's just my personal issues, whatever it may be, that I need to get this out. I've tried sitcoms. Seinfeld, for example. I was on Seinfeld, and that was terrifying. I mean, there's a live audience out there, and you know, you have 4 great people who have been a team for the longest time together, and you know, you're invading their nest, and I'm the new, you know, visitor to this nest, and that was great. That was hard, really hard.
Well,
Spin City was also another sitcom that I did.
Aside from the fact that death is easy, comedy is hard.
What's that?
Death is easy. Comedy is hard. Scary.
I mean, it was hard. I mean, people thought I could do comedy. I thought, okay, fine. But I didn't know if I could. And a role that, I mean, any role, really, any role has been tough. Do I sound like I'm giving you a lot of BS? No? Yes? No?
No, not at all. No, you've actually been incredibly honest, as usual, which I think is...
That's why we got along.
Yeah, that's true. Because you're honest.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me. Well, I guess that pretty much ends I have one question. Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
I wondered about becoming published and how you went through the process of becoming published, and any recommendations you can make to somebody who is looking to be published.
It was a long process. I told Jack I wanted to write a book, and he said, okay. An autobiography? And I said, no, not an autobiography. I'm not old yet. So, I mean, and there was too much to share, I think, at this point in my life that I felt comfortable. I said, well, where should I start? And he said, well, just take everything that you have in your head and write it down. So I did, on the computer, about 100-something pages. And we went to, let me step back. Lorna Luft. We had breakfast together one morning, and I told her, I asked her what it was like having her book come out. How was it? It was all new to her as well. I wanted to hear everything. And she went into great detail, and she had a great editor, and I said, well, great, I want to write a book. And she said, about you? And I said, no. So she took me, we met with Simon & Schuster, and she introduced me to people there at Simon & Schuster, and they were very interested at first. And I sent them what I had typed up. And they looked at it and they went, well, wait a minute. Okay. Somebody needs to help you. So I said, fine. So I decided to do it a different way. And the way that Jack helped me out was that I signed my book, and then we put it into words, and then we did the editing process just like anybody else would, and that's how it worked. I think she's not going and giving herself as much credit as she should. She actually wrote the book in sign language. And then what we did was basically take what she gave us in sign and translated it into English. Because what she originally wrote was in sign word order. So when Simon & Schuster saw this and went, it was like reading French text or Chinese text. Everything was in sign order from a visual perspective. So Marlee, we said, just do it like a translated word. So she signed it. We wrote it, basically her thoughts. Then they went through the editing process. But the publishing process went through because it was Marlee, and she wanted to write a children's book. And wasn't my daughter, when the first came out this past October, I sold 25,000 books in the first month. And it went into a second printing. And my daughter wanted me to read it to her, and I said, fine. She was 6 at the time. And she wasn't a great reader yet, but now she's great. And so the first paragraph I started the first paragraph, and she said, Mommy, and I thought, oh, well, she's going to go to sleep. She goes, Mommy, where are the pictures? I said, forget it, never mind. She's not holding on. She's a little too young for the book yet.
Okay, last question.
You wrote?
I'm sorry. I missed it. He was talking while you were signing. I didn't know where to go.
Okay.
One person.
Okay.
Okay. Since you've already written it about the book and you have experiences of your children, do you think about putting them into?
Actually, the question was, you've written one book, and now have you thought about the experiences you're going to write about in the next book?
About your life?
Oh, you mean an autobiography, or is that what you're talking about? No, not yet. Not yet. Sorry. I don't want to at this point in my life. Not today.
Maybe in the future?
Maybe in the future, but I don't see it right now. I mean, my mother was approached to write a book about what it was like raising a deaf child. And I gave her a hard time about it because I said, no, not right now. Because I know my mother, and she loves to kiss and tell. She's very proud. She's very proud. She's very proud. But I was a little bit afraid of how much she might go into detail. I don't think at this point it was necessary.
I had someone ask me this same question recently when I was going to write my autobiography, and I've just when I'm going to write my autobiography, and I've decided, aside from the fact that I'm only, I think, a third of the way through with my life, there are some people who actually have to die before I write it, or they're going to kill me if they read it.
No.
Yeah, you do know.
No.
I understand there was one more question up here, and I will take it, and then we're going to stop. Can you want to?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, when someone said something about the silent era, well, this is kind of a personal business thing, but it suddenly occurred to me that there's someone I know, and I had used that term with something that she told me about that she'd written, so I thought maybe I could connect you with her or something like that. I think you would be good to be in that.
Yeah, we could speak later if you like, when we're out there signing books.
If you buy my book.
If you buy, you have to buy the book. Brutally honest.
I want to thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. It means a great deal to me. I really did enjoy myself, and I was looking forward to this. And thank you all. You're all great people, and I want to thank the two interpreters as well. Thank you very much. Thank you.